What's up, all you necroplastic dudes and dudettes? Toyshiz here, and I'm back yet again to give you guys another fresh look. And today we're going to be checking out the upcoming brand new Mcfarlane Toys Spawn figure from their Mortal Kombat lineup. And if you didn't know, Spawn will be a playable character for Mortal Kombat 11. I even hear he's voiced by the original dude, Keith David, of course, the one and only Keith David, if you're a fan of the original Spawn HBO show.
Guess what? As far as I know, I'm already dead, which means I'm waiting for your sorry ass in the afterlife.
Yes, this Mortal Kombat Spawn figure is looking all kinds of lovely, and thank you to Mcfarlane Toys for giving this to me at Toy Fair. I was beside myself, so thank you eternally for that. But lovely photos of Spawn all over the box of the figure. This is brought to you by Ty Butler Photography. Awesome guy, works for Mcfarlane Toys. He did a fantastic job. Love the elements of necroplasm and the green. The packaging looks very elegant. It's very Spawn. You got the green every which way with the black. You got the Mortal Kombat insignia. And then, of course, here is the barcode if you want to go ahead and screen grab that so you know what to look for come March 8th. Just really like the top window down. You just got all the green. Again, very much a Spawn perfect packaging. So let's go ahead, let's open them up, and let's compare them with Spawn figures of the past. Sit back, relax, grab yourself a nice hot cup of necroplasm. This is the brand new Mcfarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn action figure. And of course, here is Spawn taken all out of the packaging. Again, I really like the green background for the tray, and it does house the little stand that comes for Spawn, but he actually stands really well with or without it. I think it's all helped to that big chunky boot of his that he has, but just simply pop the stand off and you can slip it in either one of his feet. He does have peg holes, so that works really well. I like the face on this sculpt. It looks a little bit of elements of like a skull underneath the mask, very fitting of Spawn. Down to his belt, little tiny nuances of sculpting details every which way that make up his necroplastic costume, right down to the sword accessory. We're all used to getting Spawn axes and such. This is one of the first times Spawn has had an actual Spawn sword, and it is painted nice. It's weathered nicely. I like the red handle, and of course the Spawn insignia. You always got to put the little elements of personalization, but I like it. On both sides, it's basically the same, but there are little patches here and there that make it look extra weathered, and I dig that. Spawn himself, 22 points of articulation. You're definitely going to like this. If you are, been on the fence or you're looking for a good, well-articulated Spawn, then I think that this is definitely going to be right up your alley. He does have a black wash to a lot of the red. It really enhances the features, the details. You could put his arms all the way out to the side. It just looks very cool, but it's the cape. The cape is heavy. It's so detailed, and just the way the folds are sculpted, it's like, it's a living, breathing cape, and it is a personality and a character all into its own, but I like it. I like the detail to a little crosshatch, markings every which way. His gauntlets with the spikes all have a black wash to it, and they are painted nicely. I'll give it to him on this. This is a different kind of Spawn figure he's not exactly a black suited figure. He's more of a gray, black, little hints of blue every which way. Not a very dark or stark contrasting blue, but it's there. It's a grayish blue, so in that I can appreciate getting a new Spawn figure. The head is fantastic. He's got those awesome green eyes that just really stand out. The big clunky boot. If you don't have a Spawn figure with a boot, you got to get yourself one. Some of the paint in the more, in the reds and everything can get a little bit muddled, just FYI. The back of the figure, if you were wondering, there's a good Spawn butt right there. If you're wondering if the cape is removable, it may be for some of you customizers out there, but for me, it is stuck on there. It's not something I will be removing, but it's something to maybe consider if you are interested. As far as holding his one accessory, he does hold it well. I think I would have preferred to have seen maybe a couple extra hands. That's just extra well-wishings, of course, but he holds it securely and really cool. Actually, it's different, and I appreciate that because we're always used to getting giant, huge Spawn guns, Spawn weapons, things like that, an axe like we had previously mentioned. So to have a different sort of weapon for this new modern Spawn, I think it's it works because he's definitely going to look different on your shelf if you're a huge Spawn collector. And if you were wondering, he can hold it with both hands, but let's go ahead and look at the articulation. This is by far one of the most articulated Spawns, and for a lot of people that maybe didn't get the past Spawns from years and years ago, this is definitely going to be right up your alley. And I like that he can kind of hold this sword right there between two hands. That's good grip for it. He holds it well. So nice sword, nice deco. Always like when they put the little Spawn symbol on there. Very cool sword. Head will look up about that much. He'll look down about that much. And it will, of course, go side to side. I don't think it's really not hindered at all by his little cape flaps right here. So you do get a nice range of motion out of him. So I like that a lot. Cape part right here, very, very flexible rubber, but it's a very heavy cape. Lots of detail all around it. It's very nice looking. I always say Mcfarlane always makes the best capes. They just look fantastic. Very much like it looks heavy. It looks like a real heavy drapery that's going along his back. The skulls right here are more of a rubber piece, so they can kind of flex around. He does have an upper joint, gives him plenty of articulation, can crunch down about that much. Yeah, there we go. So that's not bad. He'll go back about that much. You just kind of have to work with the cape a little bit. There you go. And he will twist at the waist. So you get a nice range of motion out of his upper body. He does have butterfly joints, so that's pretty cool. And they do work well with the cape. They go up, down to the side, and he will rotate at the shoulders right there, at the bicep. I like how everything kind of looks flush. The paint on him is more of that, it's a little bit gray blue, just a little tinge of blue in there, but most part it's not a jet black. So it's a cool looking new Spawn. He's got double jointed elbows. That's about as far as it's gonna go. I think it's a nice range of motion. Sometimes just these bands and like his more gauntlet type stuff will get in the way, not to the hindering point, but just something to consider. And then also the joints that Mcfarlane uses, like these more ball type joints, they are hidden really nicely within the gauntlets. So they will give you a little bit of mobility. Sometimes right here at the cuffs, it can kind of hinder his joints just in the hands, but it rotates really nicely. And he's got a good gripping hand, especially for holding the sword. As far as right here, this piece, think of it like Batman, Superman type underwear. It's more of a rubber piece. So you can really get that up there. That looks good. The chains are flexible, so they work well with that type of articulation. He does have kind of like those T-joints, right there. But again, you can get him going really, really high. That just looks painful doing that. Nothing at the thigh. There's no thigh swivel, unfortunately. And he does have, oh, this one seems to be a little stuck. I don't want to go too far with it, but he does have, there we go, just a little stuck. He does have double jointed knees. There we go. Looks like that from all angles. Nothing at the boot on this side, but he does have those ankles and they will go rocking back and forth, up, down, left, right. And he has little Spawn toe articulation as well, even on the boot side. The boot side gets a little bit hindered, just because of his giant thick boot. But I will say that it's there. I'm glad they put the articulation in. And for this side, just in terms of this piece kind of coming down, it will hinder just right there, but not too shabby at all. This is by far a great articulated Spawn. And like I said, if you've been looking for an articulated Spawn, one that kind of matches up with more modern figures, I think you're going to be very happy with this guy. Now, to look at him in comparison with the previous Mcfarlane Toys 10th anniversary Spawn from some years back, the 10th anniversary Spawn does have a little bit more articulation to him, but it is more of the antiquated type articulation. It still works for this figure. He's got a long flowing cape. He's got metal chains. I would have loved to have seen metal chains for this Spawn figure. I know it can't really be done in this day and age anymore. They are roughly the same height, just above the 7-inch mark, so they stand about the same. Again, I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more articulation in like the thigh and some areas on the new Spawn figure. Even more of an ab crunch, something like that, just to kind of give it that extra oomph. But I'm very happy with the articulation and seeing what came before and what we have now. And here he is lined up with the previous recent years Color Tops Spawn figures, both limited, extremely limited articulation. I love them because of how they look. They look very, very cool. I love the one with the many guns. He's got a giant stand. The one in the background was kind of sort of a redo, very pre-posed. You know, there's, again, not a lot of articulation with these, but they do look good for what they are. Sometimes with the Spawn figures, it's more of the looks than it is the actual articulation. But even in comparing him with older figures, even older figures, you can see how they have changed over the years. Again, more statuesque, limited articulation, but so happy to see that they've taken the feedback from fans and going, you know what, let's do a really nice articulated Spawn. And of course, one of my favorite highlights from this year's Toy Fair, meeting Todd McFarlane himself, and he even was so nice to sign one of my animated Spawns. Great guy, just so happy to finally meet him in person. If you were trying to maybe arm your Spawn with a couple guns or weapons other than the sword, something like that, well, if you have a couple old Spawn figures, much like this guy, you can definitely outfit him with a bunch of different weapons. He does have a trigger finger, so I think that's a little Easter egg thrown in there. If you have an extra gun or two, this guy can definitely hold it and hold it well. And again, it's so nice to see Spawn holding a big giant weapon and comparing him with the 12-inch figures, the famous covers, all that kind of stuff. He fits in nicely. It's very, very cool just to see him paired up with old figures to see what's come before. Whether or not you have some of the more villainous type Spawn figures, he will fit in nicely with the most recent, years ago, sort of Violator, but he looks great. Also the Malbolgia, which I took a look at recently on my Retro Shiz episode. They fit in gloriously. It's like nothing has changed over the years. And I'm just personally happy to have a new Spawn figure, one that is exceptionally articulated. Some extra things that I would have liked to have seen were maybe to have some extra hands, maybe metal chains, you know, maybe some articulation of the cape, something like that. And maybe including a hamburger head, an extra hamburger head, something like that. But again, those are my own nitpicks. And if you're wondering how he kind of scales with other brands, other companies, again, he's at the 7-inch mark, so he's either going to be almost perfectly scaled or he might just be a little bit too tall. But in either case, Spawn is supposed to be a little bit taller of a character, so I think you'll have a good time kind of pairing him up and designing him on your shelf with other characters, things like that. Again, this Spawn figure will become available on March 8th, starting first at Walmart, and then subsequently on March 12th, he will be available within other retailers, GameStop, Amazon, and McFarlane Toys social media will keep you posted on all the 400 Walmart stores that will have this guy starting March 8th. So keep an eye out for him. But I'm curious to know what you guys think about this new Spawn figure. I highly recommend him, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. Comment below, let me know. Let's talk everything Spawn. What's your very favorite Spawn figure ever made? I'm curious to know about that. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. As always, drink some great coffee, eat some great food, but most importantly, remember that when you make a deal with the devil and come back as some sort of Venom, Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man hybrid thing, well, don't be upset when you got a big hamburger head going on. And when you do, let me know what you found. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.